Hello, hello. For anyone who has read the Bible or even heard the story of Adam and Eve, Adam took one of his own ribs and created Eve. Now, did that mean that Eve was only a piece of Adam? That she was less than Adam? No, not at all. She was a whole being, the same as Adam was. They were equals. And we are made by God. And that doesn't make us a piece of God. It makes us one and the same. And, this is spoken of through the scriptures over and over that, Jesus, what Jesus can do, we can all do. Moses was instructed to go and set his people free. And he was told by God that I am has given the order. We are I am. And the whole Bible is telling us that we are one with God, that we are equal to Jesus, that all that Jesus could do, we could do and more. To me, God isn't somebody separate from myself. The true self, the non-physical, the unseen self is the real me. And that is all powerful. That is all powerful. A little further on in the Adam and Eve story, they were in the Garden of Eden and they had been told not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And they were convinced by this asp, by this snake, to taste the fruit. And of course, they did taste the fruit. And they were told that if they ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge, they would be banished from the Garden of Eden. Now, I always understood that it was God that banished them from the Garden of Eden. But it wasn't. You see, when they ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, the ego was born, the human mind, the mind of facts and figures, of past and future, of comparison, of assumption. And this is what removed them from the kingdom of heaven. The only way back to the kingdom of heaven is through presence. And the only way to presence is to release all the chatter of the mind. Now, mind is only an action of thought. And there is, in truth, only one mind. And, that is the divine mind. But the mind is also scaled by frequency. And the so-called ego, the human mind, is a very low frequency. And on that frequency, of course, is the conglomeration of human thought, which is generally where most people live. They live through their thoughts. And, I was one who was convinced that who I was this set of beliefs, of values, of emotions, and this body, only to discover that my true self is nothing that I can really describe in words. It is completely out of sight, according to the human eyes, not out of sight to those who have prophetic seeing, who can see auras and things like that, get a taste of the energy that we are. But, I had the experience of knowing without any doubt that I am the essence of life, of love, this pure consciousness that is the background to all that appears as real, that appears as our world. And this one pure infinite consciousness that is living through this body that I call me is the same infinite consciousness that is living through you and through every living thing, and is the same living consciousness as God. Now, for us to be able to do all that Jesus did and more, for us to be in our God self, we have to abandon all of the human that we thought or think that we are. We have to release all of the thoughts, all of the judgments, all of the labels, all of the world virtually, because that is a veil that has been placed by our own self around this conglomeration we call self, which limits our experience in life, our experience in, this life. We call this life, from time of birth to death, but there is no life and death except of the body. In my understanding, this body is like the car I have in the garage. It's my vehicle to play in the world of the physical, but it really is just energy, like everything you can see behind me and all around you. Everything is energy appearing as something. And we have the ability to create our own world, the images that we get to interact with that appear as stuff in our life. But we're not a piece of God. We are God. We're not banished from the kingdom of heaven. It's right here. It's our state of being that limits what we can experience. It was the state of being of Adam and Eve when they ate of the fruit of knowledge. Their frequency changed, their state of being changed, because they were now operating through a different level of thought. As our pure God self in absolute presence, we have access to all wisdom and all knowledge. As a human, we think we need to learn because the human mind is limited to human thoughts. And we can only have access to what we believe that we know. And because we believe if we haven't studied something, we don't know it, that we haven't got access to it. But it simply isn't the case from the God perspective. So God isn't a judgmental God. He doesn't banish us from anything. Everything is our own choice. Our state of being, according to our thoughts and beliefs, determine what we have access to. And unfortunately, most people think that their beliefs and their thoughts are who they are. It's very convincing because our own mind will say, I am such and such, or, I don't know. And we think it's talking about us, but it's actually talking about itself. Even when we are studying or learning something, it's not us that's learning, it's the mind. But, the human mind, because it really is personalized, makes everything about itself, and we assume it's about us, and we buy into these beliefs of this mind that we call the human mind, which is the very low level of the one mind. But if we could stop believing all of these thoughts that are going through our mind constantly and start watching them as if they were clouds going by, to not emotionalize them, then they stop being relevant in our world. They stop affecting us. They stop limiting us. So when we buy into human belief, we buy into that state of being, and it creates the experiences that we have around us, and also attracts thoughts on a similar wavelength. So, my experience has really changed over the last months. A couple of years, I've really been focused on coming into presence, on beingness, on accepting, on watching, on witnessing, and being very selective about what I choose to get involved with. Because as I emotionalize anything, it becomes part of my world. Accepting that I create all of my world, I know that everything in my world is a gift for me, even if it doesn't feel that way. So, to accept is to allow, is to be free of resistance. Presence has changed my world, my life, because I've changed. I've stopped limiting myself. Every one of us is this same essence, this same God. Only we're living under this filter or this veil, this lampshade that stops our light shining. It's time for us all to take these lampshades off, to see the real life that's available for every single one of us. Have a beautiful day.